Enlightenment. Enlightenment is a funny term. It's usually used by philosophers or pseudo-theists or people who talk about, pseudo-spirituality. I can say with a pretty certain degree of confidence that I have achieved some degree of enlightenment. And I'm going to go over what that means. So, enlightenment, to produce or create light, specifically within the mental space. You basically know that you've achieved enlightenment in some aspect when it does feel like light has entered your mind. And what it also means is that the baseline level for your positive emotions is raised. The baseline. And throughout our lives, we end up going through a series of fluctuations of emotions and moods. Like this. It'll oscillate between, positive emotions and negative emotions. You can't be happy all the time. And with enlightenment, it's kind of like you go from a level here to a level up here, and you create this structure, this mental structure, which allows you so that your positive emotions are higher and your negative emotions can't go as low as you'd like to. And the net effect of that is that anxiety and depression are foreign to me now. I used to have the part and parcel anxiety, depression of a typical millennial. And after achieving enlightenment, it's maybe a guilty pleasure, but I literally don't, it's hard for me even to do it. And the reason for that is that the structure of my mind has been reorganized by this philosophy and the Bible. So that's why I really make these videos, for that reason, is that you can basically, to some extent, and I want to say it for everyone, but you can basically get over your mental illnesses and your depression and anxiety and whatever, because they are essentially lower forms of, you could say, demons or demonic energy. And when you realize this, it's kind of it's a mixture of stoicism, but you realize, what are the benefits of negative emotions? If you accept the precept that you have control over your thoughts, what is the purpose of having negative thoughts? You have the ability, essentially, to mind hack your mind. And the Christian doctrine basically gives you the tools to work with to actually do this. And a lot of it is based around faith. You have Jesus' parables about seeds planted, and from those seeds, if they're in the right place, they shall grow into a great tree bearing many fruits. Everything in the Christian ethos is based around hope and overcoming uncertainty and death, really, and to become deathless. By going through the spiritual process and exploring different philosophies, you will find the way to alter your own mind to allow the best of yourself to come forth and forward into the world, how to manifest, and how to conceptualize yourself as a thought. And because essentially, if you look at Genesis, many people kind of agree that God thinks the universe into being, that it is created through the power of thought. And when you realize you can create a different you based on this thought, that you can manifest a different version of yourself through your willpower and your belief, you're able to achieve this state of mind which is like a sun within the firmament, that your thought self or soul self is free to express itself openly and with a kind of universal love. Part of enlightenment is, a lot of people say seeing with the third eye. And that definitely is part of it, but at least for me, the second part of enlightenment, which is much more difficult to grasp and really brings a sense of inner peace, is being able to see with the heart. So when they talk about seeing with the eye of the mind, it really isn't as much a goal as it is a sign that you are achieving logical or mental enlightenment. And that might come in the form of, let's say, challenging your deep-seated beliefs, or noticing a pattern which permeates everything you see. You could take a more fantastical take on the world. You could see, for example, mental disorders, dysfunctions, and murders as manifestation of demons, let's say. And you could use this pattern on the world, and the more you see it, the more clear the world becomes to you. And you're able to express a different perception onto the world. I think the Bible verse that most closely reflects what this phenomena is like would be Matthew 6:22. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy and dirty, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And so what this really, this was the most esoteric thing that I had read when I read the New Testament. I read this and I thought, I have no idea what this means. And coming back to it years later, it is one of the more or most important passages in the New Testament. Because it is basically saying, not only can you shape your mind, but if you shape the perception of the world and the perception of yourself, you can see the world filled with light, and you can choose to see the good in people. And that will actually in turn create better people because you see the world that way. There's a similar idea called the Pygmalion effect. People are more likely to act in certain ways that you expect of them. If you expect good customer service, or you expect someone to be nice to you, and you put out those good intentions, and you look for those good things, they typically manifest. And at the end of the day, it's really a glass half empty versus a glass half full mentality. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that is the simplest way I can put it. So if you want to let the light in, you have to clean the lens of your mind. And you have to allow good thoughts to enter into you so that it can also be projected outward. And right now, I'm making this video, I'm projecting good energy and good thoughts outward, that this will be received and help people. Because once you figure it out, it's like a tool that you can use. And it's very effective. That's how you can see with the eye of the mind. Seeing with the eye of the heart is very similar to that, now that I think about it, but it's a little bit more nuanced, where you don't just choose to see things in light, but you produce light. And there's a picture of Jesus that I think is pretty popular. And it's a picture of him putting 2 fingers over his heart, and there's light emanating from it. And you'll see this a lot in Catholic Latin art, where the heart is actually on fire. That is something you can actually learn to do. Emanating light from the heart is essentially conducting positive manifestation into the world. So what would an example of that be? You would choose something that is possible. Let's say you take, I don't know, the public transport every day, and maybe you notice it's dirty in this one part of the subway, and you make it an effort to clean up one piece of trash to make it cleaner. And you have this manifestation where you say, I'm going to do this one thing each day in hopes that it will get better. Maybe you go to the gym every day and you envision yourself healthier and fitter. Seeing with the heart and producing light from the heart is the same thing as believing in something and spreading that belief to others. And fortunately, if your mind's eye has been opened, there are a lot of lies that are being spun in our society at the top levels of institutions. Lies about the most basic functions of human nature that there are things that you thought were true, a baseline foundation of your understanding of the world, that when you take them out and analyze them and realize they don't make sense, is you have this feeling of, oh my God, I'm, re-evaluating and reorganizing my mind. And when you see, that's when you will actually feel a sensation in the middle of your forehead. It feels like you are processing something very important in your frontal cortex, and that's why they call it the mind's eye. It's a certain sensation just right here. To see with the heart is, the feeling of it is the same feeling you get on Christmas morning. It's something that you have this moment of just glee and hope and joy. And it's the same feeling when you give a present to someone or you receive a present and you enjoy that exchange. And seeing with the heart is being conscious of what is going on. And what is going on is you are spreading belief and you are spreading the light that is within you to others. In Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, which also has its Christian and Islamic components, from what I've read, it essentially is the same idea where you go through the stages of the human psyche to reach Keter, the crown. And once you master all of these parts of your own psyche and have a full picture of yourself and your nature, you become a ray of light. And through climbing the tree of knowledge mentally, you can now manifest light, not only in your own mind, but in others. And the most simple example of this is kindness to strangers, doing weird, random acts of kindness. But it's not just something on impulse that might be in your nature, but something you are intentionally aware of what you're doing, and you produce light into people that washes away their social anxiety, their awkwardness, their fear of the outside or other people. And reading throughout the Christian texts and a lot of almost every other religious text, they all amplify the same thing, which is that the enemy of humanity is fear. And they want to manifest or create a person who is fearless. So through manifestation of the heart and creating a belief which goes beyond us, that there's a quote, and I forget who it's by, but it's something like, I need to believe in a better world. I need to be able to manifest and go towards something that is going to be better than where we are now. Because there is nothing more dangerous or suicidal than thinking that where we are going is going to be worse, or the path we're on isn't going to be better. And combining that with Stoicism, which is the idea that you have control over your mind and yourself and nothing else, means that you have no reason to think that things are going to get worse, because you can control yourself. You can control what you eat and to some extent where you work and how you live your life. So if external events are very bleak, and the worst thing, of course, is watching the news and worrying about random bad things that are going to manifest 10 to 20 years. And believe me, there's a lot of things going on right now that are not going to be good in the next few decades, if not century. And some of these are true, some of these are hidden, some of these are propaganda to donate money to an organization that isn't actually going to fix the problem. There's a whole slew of details and chaos and fear mongering that doesn't matter, because in the Christian religion, it is you and your relationship to God. And despite all the poor, bad things happening, whether they be real or imagined, you don't need to fixate on any of them. You can just focus on yourself. And when you focus on manifesting light and a universal Christ love in your world, the people around you notice and they follow you. This is the reason why our ancestors, in living in very difficult times without air conditioning or internal plumbing or during wars and famines, didn't just kill themselves. This is why religion has such an important role, because it is the philosophy of the mind overcoming the ailments of the body, overcoming the ailments of the physical world. And now that we live in a modern age where religion has taken a back seat to things, it's interesting how mental health has become the most affected thing and number one issue almost everywhere I seem to look. But organizing these texts, it's not just a meme. It's not just, oh yeah, I read these books and now I'm enlightened and I'm gonna show my YouTube channel and get talking engagements. Like, no, this actually works. And I haven't read every self-help book in the world, but I imagine and I see that they're pretty much just repackaging of what was said simpler and more directly in these ancient texts. And it's why they've proven the test of time. They've worked for at least a couple thousand years. So I understand it's difficult to dive in to the normal, boring philosophy and text of actually reading the Bible. But if you treat the Bible as a literary philosophical text and not like a series of moral rule books and outdated morals, like people like to say it is, who probably actually haven't read it, it's so much more than that. And I would add to that, my personal belief is that I wouldn't even bother going to church. I don't represent any church. I don't encourage any church. I would go to church if you want a social circle. That's probably going to be old people, but they're there. They'll talk to you. Every time you go to church, every Sunday, they take one small snippet and then do a modern reading and interpretation of that snippet without any context of the story before that or what's happening or who's talking. And it's very disorienting. And I find it to be a very poor way of knowing the Bible. And so if you have a scholarly inclination or you have a inclination at all to find the truth, I would actually read it, at least the New Testament, if you can. Because again, once you can manifest this and you can manifest this, the world makes so much sense. I used to be an atheist in university because it didn't make any logical sense to me why someone would believe this. But understanding that belief is a higher mode of functioning, that believing in a better you every day is the key to success and happiness. Everything becomes so much easier. And so when I was an atheist, I saw the Christian religion, or any religion really, as a crutch, as someone has some horrible disease or some horrible accident, and they have someone come to them and tell them what they want to hear because they need it. They need it. Now, I see it not so much as a crutch, but as a lens or putting on a pair of glasses. Everything becomes clear and in focus. Everything makes so much sense, and you understand your own nature, your role in the universe, and where you are going and how to get there. And all your anxieties and obsessions are just depleted. And hopefully with these videos, I explain the process and the benefits of belief and manifestation and enlightenment sufficiently. And I want as many people to benefit from it rather than living in ignorance, fear, and darkness. Because the light is within all of us. You'll see it in every story, every movie. But the ability to achieve it is a mental and spiritual exercise that is totally within reach. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now, and I wish you all the very best. Blessings. Go with peace.